Welcome to this episode of the B2B Marketers on a Mission podcast, and I'm your host, Christian Klepp. Today, I'll be talking to Scott Cate. He is the creator of 301.pro and has a career track record of delivering complex, high-value products through invention, program management, and product management. He's also a proven technology leader who excels as a pivotal business partner. Tune in to find out more about what this B2B Marketer's mission is. All right, Mr. Scott Cate, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Looking forward to this conversation because I'm going to say that this is probably the first time we've had somebody on the show to talk about this particular topic. And it's highly relevant to marketers, and marketers that are not paying attention to this should.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some people are using Link Manager of some sorts, but even the ones that are sort of missing the boat on really how much time can be saved with just a little bit of forethought. So yeah, excited to be here, excited to share what we've built.
Absolutely. So why don't we just dive in, right? Because like we were saying, so for this conversation, let's focus on the topic of how sophisticated link management can unlock growth for B2B companies. So in our previous conversation, you said something about like time of day marketing. So I know what it is now, but for the benefit of the audience, please tell us what it is and tell us why it's important for B2B marketers to know about this.
So we should back up a little bit because you mentioned the concept of link management, and some people might have an idea or preconceived notion. So we should talk about what link management is. And then once we have that, we could talk about some amazing things you could do with our version of link management that is not available, like real-time marketing, where you mentioned time of day. So let's pause on that question for just a second. Link management is really the ability to keep track of the links that you have in the wild and then do reporting on them. That's what the world thinks link management is. And you might be using something like one of our competitors. Rebrandly is great. They do a good link management system. Probably the 800-pound gorilla in the room is Bitly. Most people that you're listening to have probably created Bitly links. And those systems are great until they're not. So like, let's say if you've managed Bitly, let me ask you this question. Have you ever had to go back and update like 200 links of a campaign?
Not personally, no, but I know people who have, so I know where you're going with this, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Or let's say for Bitly, you have an affiliate program or you have a team of people and you want to keep track of who's clicking the links. So like every time you create a new project, you have to go create 30 new links. Like that's the link management. And at the end of the day, our goal is to keep track of the attribution, like what's working. Like that's the reason we use the link management system. And there's a ton more benefits from it. But that's sort of the core of link management. So this is going to sound way overkill, but we have reinvented the hyperlink, which sounds crazy. So first, what is the hyperlink? Everyone on the audience hopefully knows, like you type in a URL, put that in an email, you put that into social media, you put that in your link in bio. And when you click that URL, it takes you to the destination. But here's the fundamental problem. And everything that we talk about today is going to fall into this box. That hyperlink is hard-coded. Like if 1,000 people click that link, they all go to the same place. And our fundamental problem with link management lies in that hard coding. So everything we're going to talk about is now going to be called a prolink. So our version of a hyperlink is a prolink. Or if you're using Bitly, they have a cute name for theirs. They call them bit links, which is cute. So ours is a prolink. And what a prolink does is it stops at a rules engine. And the rules engine can change the destination. So let's just paint a really easy picture for people to understand. If you have a bit link, you have a short link and a long link. When people click the short link, they go to the long link, no questions asked. With our system, if you have no rules, you actually get the same thing. You have a short link and a long link. Everyone goes to the same place. So now we have a general understanding of link management. We've introduced this concept of the rules engine. Let's go back to the question that you asked, Christian, when you started. Time of day marketing. Sometimes I call this real-time marketing, but Before we get into the technology, let's ask a very simple question with an almost impossible answer. And I haven't preceded you with this, so this is going to make you think a little bit. What time is it?
Well, on my end, it's 3:15 Eastern.
Right. And so my time is 12 o'clock. But what if I'm in Sydney?
Right.
Or what if it's 3 a.m. for me and it's 4 p.m. for you? So let's ask the question a little bit differently. What time is it on your website? The answer is it's all the time. Like, if there's 1,000 people on my website right now, should I be showing them all the same thing? And that's really where the rules engine comes in, which comes back to your original question, time of day marketing. Imagine for a minute you have a Shopify store and you have the same product. Let's say it's a makeup product. Would you sell that to the same person at 8 a.m. versus 11 p.m.? Like, it's the same person, it's the same buyer, same product, but I'm in a completely different mindset at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? So we actually have a customer that does this. So it's good to talk about it as an example. In the morning, their messaging is, here's how easy our makeup is to put on. It's going to last all day. And that in the afternoon, they're like, stays on all day, but here's how you reapply it. And then at night, here's how easy it is to take off. And then overnight, after 11 p.m. to 4 a.m., they actually do a buy one, get one free, a flash sale. But here's the thing that's interesting, that you have that visual in your head now. How do you do it? Let's say you put a link on Instagram and 1,000 people click that link. The magic is it's all the time. Like, it's 8 a.m. for this person right now, and it's 11 p.m. for this person right now. So how does your website get smart enough to actually divide that traffic? And we do that with the rules engine. And it's actually as simple as it sounds. When you click a link, we create a rule. It says in the morning, whatever morning time it is for the person who clicked the link, then show them the morning advertisement. And then overnight, show them the flash sale. That's a little more advanced. Some of your audience might be thinking, I'm not a makeup company, so that doesn't apply to me. But like, what if you simplified it and you just did night mode and day mode? Like, during the day, you might even have a light mode theme in your Shopify store. And at night, you have a dark mode theme. And it's the same product. But now when it's 11 o'clock at night and I'm scrolling through my Instagram and I'm interested in your product, I don't get blinded by a bright white background. So you can do that really quickly with a CSS theme that just changes the look of the same product, light mode, dark mode. So that's simple. People you also use time of day for business hours. Like, imagine your support link. If I'm open, then take me to live chat. If I'm not open, then take me to support an email ticket or submit an email ticket. And so that's a different time, right? That's literally my time, where I'm saying my office hours in this time zone. Like, if I'm a restaurant, this is really popular for our customers. When you scan the QR code to open the menu, I can open the right menu for you. Like, if you're open breakfast, lunch, happy hour, and dinner, when you scan the QR code, why make the user fumble through to find the happy hour menu? Like, if it's 3 to 5, Monday through Friday, or whatever the hours are that you determine. So all those are time zone examples. I did sneak in the QR code concept there. When we say we reinvented the hyperlink and we call it a pro link, if you're using that with a QR code, then all the rules that we talked about with time of day are also applicable to the person scanning the QR code. But it's not just time. I mean, we have 100 different variables, and we'll get into some cool examples around location, device detection. All those things are great when you combine them with a QR code.
There's some great examples, and I can see how that works if you're like Shopify and if you're a restaurant. But like, let's say, for example, that there's somebody listening to this that's, surprise in B2B. So how would this apply to a company that's, let's say, for example, selling software?
Yeah, completely. That's me, actually. I'm selling software. Like, 301 Pro is the name of our product. And so we use this all day long. So here's a couple of examples. We have demos. So if you're interested in the software, you can say, book a demo. And we have people that do demos in Europe. We have people that do demos in North America, South America, in Asia, and in Sydney. So normally when you have this type of international audience, you ask them, like, where are you? Well, we already know because when you click the link, we have the location detection. So when you go to 301.pro/meeting, we don't have to ask you where you are. But if you're in Europe, you'll end up in a European Calendly link. And then the time zone is booking space with our people in Europe that is time zone specific. So really the question to ask for B2B or any marketer is, what's the mindset of the person clicking this link? And can I reduce the friction to get them to give me money faster? Like cutting to the chase, that's really what we want to do. And most of the time, a link will just end up at the same destination for everybody. And, if you're in a paid ad campaign and you have a one-to-one relationship with the landing page, then you might think to yourself, I don't need any of this. But let's introduce something that's not time of day. Another very simple concept with a difficult question, A/B split testing. So a lot of the ad networks will give this to you. And so if you pay, $2 for a click on Instagram, you can do A/B split testing. Here's my landing page 1 and here's my landing page 2. But how do you do A/B split testing outside of paid advertising? Like even in a product or on your homepage, like your support link or your pricing page, how do you randomly get people to 2 different versions of that? If you're a developer, then that's easy because you're in control of the programming. But in my experience, when I'm talking to a marketing agency or someone in a marketing role, we'll call them the campaign manager, whether it's for their individual product or they're managing campaigns for third party for their customers, like an agency would do. That person is going to not have the capability of owning the server to do some programming for A/B split testing. So with a pro link, you literally just give the same pro link 2 destinations and then it cycles through them, or 3 destinations or 5 destinations. And we make it really easy. When you add a pro link, we say, what's the rule that you want? And if you want to do A/B split testing, we just ask you for 2 URLs. You put in the URL of landing page A and the second URL of landing page B, and now bam, you do A/B split testing at the link level. And links are everywhere. It could be your email signature, it could be the navigation in your website, it could be in a PDF. Like there's lots of places that you put hyperlinks that's outside of that paid advertising campaign.
Very cool, very relevant example. So thanks for sharing that. I'm going to segue to the next question, which is about key pitfalls that B2B marketers need to avoid when it comes to link management. So what should they avoid and what should they be doing instead?
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite questions because it truly solves a deep pain problem for every B2B marketer. And I call this after the campaign. So I worked inside Microsoft engineering for 5 years and then followed up with that in AWS engineering and in the cloud computing space. We did a lot of product launches because in cloud computing, there's a new product every other Monday. Every B2B listener, every B2B marketer listening to this podcast has a formula in their head for a product launch. So let's say you're doing that. You've got a product, it's coming out on the first of the month. And you've got YouTube videos talking about it. You're promoting webinars. You've got press releases. Maybe you're even doing something in multiple languages. So you have many links that are in the wild. And if you're keeping track of who on your team is promoting those links, you may have a multiplication effect where instead of just one link to the press release, if there's 20 people on your evangelism team, you may have to create 20 versions of that short link so that you can keep track of who's doing what. We have we can solve this problem also. In fact, we should talk about that next. But to answer your question, here's the pitfall. You've got all these links in the wild. You've had your best customers write blog posts about you. And the link in that blog post is linking back to your product announcement. So here's the big question. What happens after the product launches? Like the pain point is going backwards and updating all of those links because now you don't want to drive traffic to the press release. You want to drive traffic to the product page. And so earlier I asked you the question, like, if you've ever had to go back and update a library of links, it's painful, it's time consuming. And the truth is, most people just don't do it. And what the negative effect of that is those links die, your press release gets taken down, and now people are linking to your site through, and they're getting 404s. Like the problem is. So here's our solution. We have something called a campaign manager. And a campaign manager, very simply, is an umbrella that connects all the links together. So when we created those 50 links to put them in the wild, we added them to a campaign. And the campaign has rules. So it can do things like enforce UTM links. It can enforce that every link is universally doing something, whether it's appending a query string for like a high-rows injection for your analytics, or something for Google Bigtable, or some other HubSpot link. Like at the campaign level, you can say all these links have to follow this rule. So after the campaign, our rule is if the date is after the first of the month, then change the link to go to the product instead of what it was originally doing. It literally takes you less than 30 seconds. And now those 50 links that are in the wild now auto-magically just start going to the new destination. Your reporting continues. So you still see the links that are being clicked, but you've been able to change the destination based on a date. And you can actually change it with any of 100 different rules. But for that specific one, your question was, what's the pitfall? Like, what could I do a little bit now to save myself the pain and the time in the future? And it really comes down to that campaign management and the campaign rules that you can change later, right? Like if I'm a marketing person, I know I have a product release on the 1st. I might not know the URL of the product destination because it literally doesn't exist yet. But when it does exist, I just go back to the campaign, I update it. I say, everything in the wild now start going here. And you could get more advanced with language detection. You could say for Spanish, go here, Japanese, go there. Like it doesn't have to just say the entire campaign now goes to one place. But the point is, I can retroactively change all of those links in the wild very simply to match my business rules. And now I don't have 404s. I have happy customers that are interested in the product that land in the product page. So that's probably our biggest time saver and pitfall to avoid with the campaign management.
Yeah, no, absolutely. By the way, did you say automatically instead of automatically?
Yeah, I did make that word up. I think I can't take credit for it. I think other people have used it as well. But yeah, automagically.
Yeah.
That could be a website. I bet $100 that domain is taken.
Probably. You can check it out after this conversation. But you know what? Since you've laid it out so beautifully, it totally makes sense, because that was actually what was going through my mind as you were answering the question. It's like, well, how do you pre-campaign and during campaign and post-campaign, like, isn't somebody responsible for having to update those links? And that must be such a painful just process. And like, oh my gosh, I can just imagine somebody people on the agency side just saying like, okay, we'll leave that job to somebody else, right?
If somebody's doing it, it's painful. The reason that I know people are doing it is because it was me. I was the one updating my Bitly links, and I have to do them one at a time. And actually, we'll segue into this affiliate management or team management, because on our team, we wanted to give credit to who's doing the promotion. And, you could have a contest, you could have an affiliate where it's monetary, like you could actually pay commission on people clicking the links. And so, some people have a small team, you're keeping track of 10 people, and then your go-to is like, well, I'll just create unique links. Like, okay, Scott, here's your link. Okay, Christian, here's your link. Michelle, here's your link. And then it's easy because there's only 10 of them. But even that's painful because you have to go back and update something. Or let's imagine you get a new person on the team. You're like, okay, hi, Nicole. Here's all the links that you're going to promote. But hang on, I got to go create them. And because there's like 20 active campaigns that we're working with, Now I'm going to have to just painfully create 20 links for Nicole. There are people listening to this right now, like crying. They're like, oh my gosh, I have to do that. And we've come up with a very simple, very elegant solution. So let's get a little nerdy for a second. We call that a link variation. And the important part of a link variation is that the link itself doesn't change. And the reason that's important is because for attribution, you don't want to create an entirely new link. Why do you want to keep track of something else when your core goal, let's say you have page A on your website, and your core goal is to get people to page A. It's a product announcement, it's a press release, it's a landing page, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Let's just call it page A. What most people do because they don't have any choice is they create 100 different links that point to page A, which of course creates a management issue, creates a reporting issue, it creates an attribution issue. Like, where did all of this stuff come from? And we've basically gotten rid of all of that. And I'll show you how this works. It's really simple. So imagine in your head, you have a short link. So you have a go.microsoft.com/page A. And people call them go links. It's a pretty popular term inside the advertising agency or inside of a big company. Like when I worked at Microsoft, we literally call them go links. Create a go link that ends up at this landing page. And so you have that short link. So let's just say yourdomain.com/page A. And then when people click that link, it takes them to www.blah, blah, blah / landing page or whatever it is, right? So you have the short link and the long link. Well, that's what the world has today. Here's what we've introduced as a variation. We just add another parameter to the short link. So yourdomain.com/page A / whatever you want to put in there as a marker for who clicked it. So let's say that you and I are on a team, Scott and Christian, and we want to keep track of how many page A you've driven and how many page A I've driven. So all we would do is come up with some sort of naming convention, either for our person or our team or our affiliate ID, and we tack it onto the URL. So now the URL is something like yourdomain.com/page A /SC, my initials. And that /SC, we call it a variation, which is a little bit nerdy, but think about it. It's a variation of the core link. And here's the magic. If I'm a B2B marketer, I don't have to set them up ahead of time. I just have to set up the page A link, and now I can add any variation I want to the end of it. It could be /marketing, /Twitter, /Instagram. Or if you have an affiliate paid program, you just put instructions to your affiliates that says, append your affiliate code SC123. And then if 1,000 people click the page A links and all the variations of the page A links, I only had to set up one thing. I get reporting of all 1,000 clicks that come through, and I get a nice little diagram of how many variations of each link. So Scott, you got 27. Instagram came 252. But it's the same link, right? So I only had to create it once, but I get to use it in infinite combinations. And so what you can do with the rules engine, you have to put this whole thing end to end, because the example that I showed you so far is only the first half. If you want to actually feed attribution into another system, with whether it's your analytics system or it's your commissioning system, you probably need a query string when page A loads on the other side of like, who is the affiliate? Like, who's going to actually get credit for this? Amazon works the same way. If you have an affiliate code, you want to get people to click that link. And then when they get there, you'll see in the URL, it's like the affiliate store is SC123 or whatever it is. So here's where the rules engine comes in. Remember, the domain is yourdomain.com/page A /SC123. Let's pretend that's my affiliate code. Now you can say the rules engine, if there's a variation, take the destination, which was in the original link that was created, and append a query string of affiliate ID equals variation. And so without doing any more work, the marketing B2B person has to create one pro link. They have to set up the rules engine. And now they can use that pro link in infinite destinations out into the wild. They can keep track of the affiliates that are clicking them, and they can pass that through to the payload of where the landing page is loaded, which is important because then analytics pick it up, the commissioning engine picks it up. Like, you have full access to that affiliate code from top to bottom when they click the short link all the way through to when the landing page loads.
It sounds to me like, and I'm oversimplifying it here, right? Because I'm not a developer, right? But like, it sounds to me like you've cut the Gordian knot a little bit here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is also not for everyone. Like, you could say, some of your listeners are like, I don't have an affiliate program. Then that's not going to work. But let me show you an example where I use this, because you asked the question earlier about how do software companies use this. I have a short link called Register. If I was just talking to you on the street, like we met in a restaurant, and you're like, hey, I want to sign up for this, I would actually write down on a napkin 301.pro/register. And it's not /login. It takes you, there's a difference. Even though the forms look the same on our website, registration has the intent to create a new account, right? You're setting your password, blah, blah, blah. You're accepting terms of service. So when I'm promoting the registration on Twitter or X, the link that I type in, I use the variation, and I do 301.pro/register/X or /IG, because I want to attribute where the traffic came from. We can actually do that based on the referrer as well. So there's a number of ways to slice and dice that particular scenario, but it's a ton of fun to use the variation. It really amplifies your reporting to keep track of where the link came from, or at least what the source of the link is, particularly if there's money involved, like commission to affiliates. And it's very simple. Like, I literally cut out 5 to 20 hours of work now on affiliate management, where I just basically say, if you want to get paid, here's how you format the URL. And that's very easy to do in automation with mail merge and, when you're onboarding a new affiliate. So yeah, there's a lot of fun in that.
Yeah, no, for sure. We've been talking about it for a while now, but like, let's dive a little bit deeper into link management. So most especially questions like, okay, how can, what are those key components that need to be in there for you to consider it effective link management? And that's the first question. The second question is, how can B2B marketers optimize their link building strategy without compromising on quality or becoming spammy? Because I think that could be an issue too if you don't know what you're doing.
If you're using the free version of many products, we actually don't have a free version, so this doesn't quite apply to us, but there can be some blowback on link management if you are not using a white label version. And what I mean by that is, when people, like if you have a newsletter system, a lot of newsletters will automate into Bitly. And it's amazing because they'll basically take all of the links that are in your newsletter and they'll convert them to Bitly links. The drawback to that is, especially if you're using it on social media, a lot of the Bitly links, because of the spam, actually gets blocked. So that would negatively hurt you because your email will never even end up in the inbox. And I don't want to paint a negative picture about Bitly. So I just want to factually say, I love Bitly. I've been using Bitly my whole life. But there are some things that are gotchas because of the amount of spam that is run through their system. Eventually, that will happen to us as well on the domains. We're just not as big as Bitly, so it hasn't quite bitten us yet. But the solution to that is white label, or what some people call custom domain. So in the example, we've been talking about me, 301 Pro, because that's my website. But if you have your own website, I just say yourdomain.com, whatever that is, and every business marketer understands that. You can actually put a subdomain in front of your real company domain. And then, we said go.microsoft.com earlier as the example, or go.yourdomain.com. That actually does a couple of things. Because it's now first party, you get treated differently by the ad blockers and the email engines and your SMS provider, which is Twilio or however you're sending SMSs, are different when it's first party brand versus something generic like Bitly. So that's one of the gotchas that people can fall into with link management. The other thing is sort of daunting. It's like, how do I get started with this? And the answer really is you can't change yesterday, but you can start preparing for tomorrow. And if you already have a link management system, there's migrations, so we can actually copy from one system to another if you'd like to switch to 301 Pro, or just get started. And then by next month, you'll have 100 links. You'll have a couple of campaigns. And you do just have to start somewhere. And there is work involved. Like, you do have to sit down and think about it. It's not going to just magically do itself. But there's a couple of things there to think about with regard to the link management. The next thing I would say is analytics. We have a very basic analytics system, and we've intentionally not put time and energy into building like this huge analytics system, because it's my personal belief you should not use our analytics system at all. You should use your own analytics system that you're already using for networking or for paid ads, for Google traffic, Google Trends. And there's 100 of them out there. A couple of our favorites are Hyros. There's another one called Fathom Analytics. Of course, the 800-pound gorilla is Google Analytics, which is amazing because it's free, but it's also not that great at the same time. And I say not that great, not in a technical sense. All the data's there. Some people talk about data being delayed. Some people talk about the confusion of how difficult Google Analytics is. And if you listen to a company like Hyros, which I don't have any affiliation with, but I do actually have a lot of customers that use them, they claim to have better, easier, cheaper, faster, easier to understand analytics. So the whole point of that is, if you're using link management, you might rely on me for something like a click number, which you could sort of visually quickly see popularity. But ultimately, your analytics engine, you already have that. And maybe it's Snowflake if you're a larger enterprise, or maybe you're dumping data into Google Bigtable, or maybe you're doing something more advanced on your side. It's my opinion that we should fall in line to what's happening there. So we have a couple features. One is called real-time analytics. Every time a link is clicked in our link management system, we can actually push data into your analytics in real time. So you never actually look at the 301 dashboard for analytics. It's a little bit more advanced. Not everyone is going to qualify for that, but most agencies will have a good set of analytics. And of course, we work with Google Analytics. We enrich data on the query string that flows all the way through to Google Analytics. So if you're using Google Analytics, I don't want to, turn you off to it. I'm just saying there's a lot of alternatives, and there's pros and cons to everything. But we have just basic analytics, which effectively gives you click count, locations where people are clicking from, what time of day people are clicking. It's enough to understand that your link is working, but it's really not going to give you deep analytics about conversions and if your traffic is, working the way that you want it to. We think there's another better system for that on your side of the fence.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I want to go back to something you said at the very beginning where you were talking about like white label, right? And just from
Yeah.
your experience, have you seen situations where marketers are choosing not to go down the white label route, and then that gets them into trouble when it comes to like link building?
The white label is it's a small hurdle that you have to jump over in the beginning, but it's also a set and forget. So once you're done, you probably never have to go back and change it. The difficulty that we have in support with white labeling is it's a little bit more of a nerdy part of the internet, and you have to get into the domain naming system of the domain, which is going to be your GoDaddy or your Cloudflare or your Namecheap, or it's sometimes where the domain was registered, but it also can be a different DNS made easy or some other DNS system. Because the way white labeling works is if you were to use a Go subdomain, then you have to basically tell the internet when somebody clicks on go.com mydomain.com. That go, the geo part of the domain, is called a subdomain. And you have to basically tell the world that you want that to come to the 301.pro servers. Now, you've probably done this with Gmail and with HubSpot and with any of the other white labeling systems out there. The benefit is that now you're on brand. Instead of using Bitly or Rebrandly or 301 Pro, like not 301.pro / my homepage, go.yourdomain. That's the white labeling part that we're talking about. Of just being able to brand your short links. If you want to send text messaging, it's very important to have your primary domain linking in the message. A lot of systems, and I know that I've had a problem with like Go High Level and bouncing a message through Twilio, you have to have that 10 DLC, the 10-letter domain certification. Maybe it's, I don't remember it exactly, but you have to basically prove I'm a real person, I'm a real business, and these are how I'm going to be sending my text messages. And the networks will block non-branded domains. Like if you're sending a Bitly link or a generic link of some sort that's not matching your domain, then you're going to have a much lower throughput and send rate on those messages. But you still have to pay for the messages that you didn't send, the blocked messages. So while there is a little technical hurdle, because the marketing person typically is not the same person who has access to the domain registration and the domain name services, it's really worth it for the day or two that it takes to get all those parties involved to have a nice white labeled system. And then once it's working, you probably will never have to change it again. But it's definitely worth the time. You're going to get a much higher click-through rate, a much higher return on ad spend when you have an on-brand domain versus something that's generic.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. That totally makes sense. All right, my friend, we come to the point in the conversation where we talk about actionable tips, and you've given us plenty to work with already. But let's just assume, as you said before, that there's a B2B marketer listening to this and going, wow, this Scott really knows his stuff, but I really want to take action on this right away because I don't have 12 months to deliver, right? So what are like 3 to 5 things you would recommend they do to like leverage link management for better growth?
Well, I mean, the first thing is to get started. The second thing is pricing. Our software ranges from $50 to $500 a month. And on that lower level, what you're really limited with is team size and the number of rules that you can create. But for most small teams, you can start at that $50 range, and then it will go up from that. You have to just start somewhere if you think that this is valuable. If I can save you 5 to 20 hours a month, like we talked about for the affiliate marketer, or give you the ability to retroactively change an entire campaign without having to go back and spend the hours of updating those links, then of course your time is valuable, and that's a small price to pay for some software to automate it. I do have a coupon code that gives you 2 months of free software, and I just actually used your initials, CK. So if you're on the checkout page of 301 Pro and you buy any of the products, then you can use the coupon code CK and it will give you 2 months free. We don't have any free software. We do have a demo. The demo links you're limited to 5 demo links, and they're not for production, but it lets you actually exercise the software to see if it's working. The 2 months free literally would give you 60 days at zero cost. You can then use all of the features of the plan that you're interested in, and you can cancel if it's not working for you, or if it is, then you found some magic, and for a small monthly fee you have this masterful link management system. So I would say get started. We've talked a lot about, when I say 301, technically that's a mistake. So here's a little quiz for you. Do you know what a 404 is?
That's what shows up on a web page that no longer exists, like an error, right?
That's right. 404 is broken link. 301 So 404 is the internet status code for
Okay.
broken link. 301 is the internet status code for redirect. So that's where the name of our company comes from, 301 Pro. And here's a funny little story. When I once asked a user to give me feedback, I'm like, my website is 301.pro. And they type in the URL 301.pro and it doesn't come up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, our website's down. Like, so what's wrong? But I look at it on my phone and it's working. So the problem was the user actually typed in the number 3 and the letter O and the number 1. Because I'm so nerdy, I say 301 Pro and I just assume that people know that that's 301. Like the error code is 301. So since then, I had to buy a whole bunch of new domains. And if you actually do go to 301.pro, it now works. So 301 is redirect. And that's what we sort of build for professional marketers, which is the name of the product, 301.pro. So get started, use the code CK for 2 months free. And we hope you love it.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. 2 more questions, then I'll let you go. All right. Okay. So a status quo in your area of expertise that you passionately disagree with and why?
I have to say it's QR codes being hard-coded. I could also add, and this is sort of related, lack of QR codes. So I've got a buddy who does nationwide marketing in the hundreds of millions of dollars for an automobile company. And I cannot understand for the life of me while they spend so much money on television commercials, but they don't have a QR code on the commercial.
Right.
And they're very smart people. Let's just say because I have a difference of opinion doesn't make me right and them wrong. I'm not saying what they're doing is wrong. They have awareness money. They're trying to just, populate your head with the automobile that they're trying to sell so that a year from now, so that they don't have a direct call to action, so to say. I don't personally agree with it. I would like to have an easier call to action. Like, if you're interested, click here and we'll send you a postcard. Like, give me some sort of instant gratification. The other side of that is I got another buddy who owns a software company. They do TV commercials and their entire call to action is download our app. So they have a QR code on the commercial and they use our links with device detection. And it's beautiful. The device detection basically says, if I'm an Apple, go to the App Store, Apple App Store. If I'm Android, go to the Google Play Store. And then they get analytics on who's what. But we don't have to ask the customer. Like, sometimes you scan a QR code to download an app and then it's like, do you want to go to the Apple Store or the Android store? It's like, why are you asking me that? It's such a simple thing to do with the user agent that comes along with the click request. Yeah. And so we sort of magically do that. So to answer your question, I think the status quo is no QR codes. But when a QR code is used, I just cringe that it's hard-coded. There's horror stories you can read from people. One of them is a national billboard campaign. And we're talking about millions of dollars of spend with a QR code that's wrong. Like you can't change a QR code. You can't just reprint it. This is in the wild. And so I would never, ever, 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 ever print a QR code that's hard-coded to a single destination. I would always send it to a rules engine of some sort that says, let me do something. I know we're out of time, but can I just show you one quick example of a QR code that is amazing for us? So one of our customers, it's in the automobile industry. In fact, this postcard might be in your house or your listener's house. So if you have one, look at it. It's a postcard that goes out to 250,000 people a week. Like, this is a major expense on the marketing side to send postcards. And the postcard has a QR code on it now. It's our QR code. Here's the magic. And this is what I want some of your listeners to think of. It's the same QR code nationwide. But when your phone scans the QR code, we know the data center that the traffic from your phone is coming through, or the cell phone tower. So we know the location. We don't know the exact location. It's not creepy. You can't knock on your front door, but it's within about a 10-mile range. And within that 10-mile range, we can then get you to the closest dealership. So in the old days, it was like, hey, we need you to change your oil. Call this 1-800 number or go to our website, NorthAmericanAutomotive.com. I won't use the real name. We're building a case study for them, and then I'll be able to use it. But until then, and then on the website, it's like, where are you? What state are you in? What kind of car do you have? But with our QR code, they literally just go right to the closest dealership to book an oil change appointment. And they're getting like 80% more oil changes than with calling in from the 800.
Isn't that incredible? It's like incredible.
It's such a beautiful story because it's so simple. There's no more management for the B2B. All I had to do was convince the marketing agent to put a QR code on the flyer, but they never had that capability before because the QR code at best would just go to the national website. It's not helpful. So like once you understand the location marketing, especially if you have a franchise or a national or an international retail or automotive chain, there's really some just phenomenal magic you can do that eliminates the pain point for the person clicking or scanning the link to get them to, I mean, this might become our new tagline. Get your customers to spend money faster. Like that's our whole goal, is to make more money. And even in the B2B space where we have a longer sales cycle, you know, we talked about the call centers in different countries. Like there's just so much you can do, light mode, dark mode, that will help you better attract the person you're talking to at an anonymous level. Like we don't actually know who the person is, but we can guide them based on time, location. Oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about weather, but we also have live weather. Huh? Once we know your location, like here's a question for B2B to ask. And the end user that's clicking the link, are they the same person if they're snowed in Chicago, or it's 3:00 in the afternoon on a Saturday and they're sunny on a beach? Like, is that the same person? Is that the same buyer? And so like you could do things in real time to show them a different product. We have one of the, top 5 largest clothing companies in the world uses us, and they use us for their awareness marketing. So in that example, they'll either show you raincoats or they'll show you flip-flops or suntan lotion or sundress versus mud shoes in a mudroom, like snowy related product versus on a beach related product. And you can do it all in real time to just get the person to buy and connect with you faster. That's our whole goal.
Absolutely. Scott, we could have talked for another 10 hours, man, but
there's so many good examples.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on and for sharing your experience and expertise with the listeners. Please, quick intro to yourself and how folks out there can get in touch with you. I guess it has something to do with a QR code.
That's funny. So my name is Scott Cate. I have Scott Cate as the social media on everything, even on Google. If you just Google Scott space Cate, I've got a nice knowledge panel that gives you links to my LinkedIn, my Twitter. So that's on the personal side. I'm also super nerdy in the marketing world. So if somebody just wants to brainstorm ideas with nothing to do with buying the software, but just like looking at or talking about new ideas, I've learned some stuff recently that's just mind blowing that people are doing in the world. So I love just talking to people. I love big marketing, and that's how to get in touch with me personal. And then 301 Pro is really easy to find on all the socials as well.
Fantastic. Scott, once again, thanks so much for your time. Take care, stay safe, and talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me, Christian. Take care.
Thanks. Bye for now.